want to talk to you about all of the work that you're doing with your teams, and especially that the idea of being a very supportive leader that is actually killing the accountability for your teams. So if this is you, you're a woman in leadership and you have got a team, no matter how big or small, and you find yourself staying later to catch the mistakes, fix the presentation, making sure that the reports are done, or constantly following up and reminding them to make sure that deadlines are met, this is for you, because I know we have so much been going on about we need to make sure that we are supportive of our teams, we're providing them with resources. And I want to tell you today that is may be in the way and killing the accountability and the responsibility that you want in your teams for them to take ownership, for them to work independently and to get results and just do the work. All right, if this is the first time you're catching me, hello, I am Kim Rijmakers, and I am a leadership coach and executive advisor for the past 5 years, and I've worked with over 100 plus women across different industries, helping them to create more high-performing teams, reclaiming their time, as well as getting promoted into executive roles and just leading with a lot more ease so that they get their time back for themselves as well. All right. So let's dive into this topic because, and by the way, if you've got questions, please drop them in the comments, hit me a wave or just a heart to let me know you're watching, because I always appreciate that as well. Now, when we talk about being a supportive leader, and I get it, I have been there. I was in corporate myself for 20 years. I know why you do this as well, of why you keep stepping in to fix the mistakes or to catch the missed things in a report. Because you want the presentation to be flawless. You want to make sure that the result that you've promised that you are responsible for gets delivered. You want to make sure that when you go to present something to your leader, or even if you're getting your team members to present to your leaders, that it is done and up to par. But then there becomes a moment here, right, where there isn't any responsibility for the team, because while you don't want your leaders or maybe the clients to see that something has gone wrong, the deadline is the next day. There isn't any time for you anymore to really get in there and actually help. Like, you have to do it, right? I spoke yesterday to a leader. She's like, well, how am I supposed to do this if I've got reports that are due? I asked them to deliver on Friday. It needs to be handed in by the end of day Monday. But when I finally get it, there's so many mistakes. There's no time for me to send it back. So you jump in at 11 o'clock and you fix whatever they missed, right? Because, hey, this sounds really responsible. This means that we're getting it done. We're delivering on it. Wrong. You are delivering on it, but not your team. They are not learning anything other than, hey, you know what? If it's not done, it's not done because, Kim's going to fix it anyways. And I want to ask you this question, because if being the person who fixed everything each time, caught all those mistakes and fixed them and stayed late and made sure you got the work got done, if that actually built your authority, your credibility, and created a high performing team, you'd already have it. You'd already have a team that was owning their outcomes, that was taking ownership, that was doing responsibility. And you would be in the strategy meetings that you want to sit in on. You would have the time to determine the strategy that is also part of your role. You don't get to because you're stuck in the firefighting mode. So here's what actually happens. And I've hinted at this already a couple of times, but every time that you step in, you teach your team that ownership of their work, their responsibilities, the outcomes is optional. They learn that anytime they're going to miss a deadline, you're going to be there to rescue them. And they learn that anything that they deliver, think, oh, well, it's good enough. I'm going to go enjoy my weekend now. It gets upgraded to great and perfect because you're the one doing all of that. Let's not even look at I'm not even talking about the amount of time this is taking up and the amount of brain space, but because you keep doing this, they learn that you're essentially their safety net. You're their backstop. nothing's going to get through to you, which on one hand thinks like, yeah, but that's great because I'm the quality control. Yes and no, because you're not actually their leader. You're also not allowing them to grow. And because you keep solving all of their execution problems, the senior leadership sees you exactly as that, the person who's great at execution. You're the reliable one. You're the one that handles the details. You're the one that gets it done. But you're not the strategic partner who's going to be who's setting the direction, who's shaping the direction. Why? First of all, because you don't really have time for it as you're trying to catch up with everything else. But also because you're not doing that. You are not ensuring that your team is being accountable. You're not ensuring that your team is the one doing the execution while you're the one that is setting the direction. And this is also why your workload keeps growing, but the opportunities for promotion, the conversations around promotions, your next level role, what's your next step, are not happening because you're training everybody around you, your team, your boss, your peers, that your value is in the execution. It's in the doing of, not in the deciding of. And the real problem in this case isn't that your team can't handle the responsibility. It's that you keep removing any of the consequences that would force them to step up. And I know this gets very, very uncomfortable. And what the same leader that I spoke to yesterday, she's like, well, what happens if the report isn't done, it gets delivered to the CEO? I said, well, there is going to be a moment where you get to choose. And I will say the caveat this is make sure that this also has to do with a supportive type of culture in your organization where mistakes can be made, where you allow your team to fall on their sword, essentially. Like if they make a mistake, don't clean it up. See what then happens. Will they learn from that and step up the next time? Because that is holding them accountable, not you taking on the accountability to make sure everything gets done and you doing the work for that. Now, with one of my clients, when she stopped doing all this work, right? She stopped rewriting her team reports. She started sending them back with questions. She was coaching them of like, okay, so what is the action that you are going to take here? Not always giving the answer either, because that's the other thing. We find a lot of times like, oh, well, I'm just going to give them the answer. Well, that's still not teaching your team to be independent and take accountability because they know, hey, you're my Google. I can go get questions from you. And what happened was her team started asking better questions. They were more prepared. They also started owning all of the outcomes instead of just the outputs. Now, this came out. Within 3 months of working together, she was able to reclaim 20 plus hours of her time each and every week. Now, that freed up her weekends, that freed up her evenings, but even the best part of it, it freed her up so that she could start doing more of the strategic work that was part of her role and that she never had time for. And within a month of that, so 4 months of working together, she was promoted into a new role. She hadn't had that in over 11 years. 11 years she was moving horizontally. Her team was growing, but she wasn't being promoted at all. She wasn't being seen as being any person of the person. She was a person that was executing greatly. If you're sticking through my tongue twister here, she was seen as the person who was a great executioner, was a great person to make sure that things got done in our team, but wasn't the person that was seen of like, hey, we need to have her here to make decisions, to set up the strategies. Because, and this is important even for you, when you stop, you use this as well, you stop being that fixer and you start becoming the leader who is actually activating ownership within their teams. Now you can stop trying to like keep your team like doing what they need to do, but you start to allow them the growth of figuring out like, hey, I actually have to own this. And it does mean there is going to be times where it gets really uncomfortable for you. So I want to give you some tips and tricks for this. So the next great step for you, if you want to know like, hey, how do I do this and how do I activate this accountability and ownership for my teams, then I want you to comment guide. So GUIDE guide. And I'm going to send you my accountability activation guide. Now within this guide, I share a framework it's a 4-step framework where I walk you through exactly how to start delegating, not tasks, but outcomes specifically, as well as the ownership of those outcomes. because that is going to be a key into getting things off your plate and to ensure that your team becomes much more accountable, takes much more ownership, and is able to work independently, which is going to create more time for you. It's going to give you time back in your calendar. And this all without adding a ton more of check-in meetings, one-on-ones, because that isn't working either. And if you want me to personalize this, so I've got a few spots open this week, and I've got a few spots open next week. If you want one of those limited spots, then comment the word audit. And what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then I'm going to personalize the strategy to your situation. This is a complimentary audit, so it's free. If you want one of those, comment the word audit. And again, we'll have a conversation. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I will send you a personalized video with the strategies to you. So last note on this one, when what you're calling your supportive leadership, just a reminder, when you're being very supportive by fixing mistakes and making sure setting all these reminders is actually going to be killing the accountability within your team. So when you want to shift that, that's where you start. First place is the accountability activation guide, or personalize the strategy for you and comment audit. All right, I'd love to answer any questions. If you've got questions, please drop them into the comments. Let me know if there's anything, if you've got other questions, or send me a DM and let me know how this lands for you and what changes for you when you successfully make sure that the accountability is living inside your teams rather than inside your leadership.